How do I fix this? Why isn't this working? What is transition? How do I fix this?
I've never been patient. Why isn't in my career? A lot of trust is being put into me to do it right. And I'm going to do it for me. I'm going to do it for my family. And I am going to do it for you. You got it in 2 and 3. Let's fight about it. This is gonna get ugly in a hurry. These behemoths.
All right, I think I figured it out. Can you see me now?
Preparing for the 2 challengers that stand in his way. Breaker overcome the odds once again here tonight at Halloween Havoc.
I'm now joined by the #1 contender.
All right, what is up, everybody? I'm Main Event Mike, and we're gonna learn how to do this together because I literally can't figure out how to do this. So I'm gonna figure it out though, because this is just like, why is this weird transition screen here? I just want to be done with this part. And I think that's it. I think I should be good now. Yeah, so GCW invading Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. I'm gonna show you where I found this, which is very interesting to me. Again, sorry, bear with me so we can, let me share this screen. Okay, so here we go. So I was browsing Twitter and I came across this Twitter site, or this Twitter guy called Ben Allison. Exclusive, Wrestling Republic has learned that GCW has agreed to a deal with their shows on demand on WWE Network, Peacock. With this announcement likely coming tomorrow, the owner of GCW, Brett Lauderdale, being close to Stephenie McMahon is what led to the deal. Now, obviously, that's not like in itself enough of a guarantee. But I mean, what's really interesting is how Brett Lauderdale and Joey Janela have just been like sharing a ton of WWE news and liking tweets, and they're also saying that they have a huge announcement coming up, which is also really interesting. I don't know if it was here where he quoted on it, but yeah. So that's really, I'm trying to think where the other piece of news is. Oh, here we go. So then they're going to be making, so just prior to tonight's Drop Dead event, we will be making the first of several major announcements. And so a lot of people online are talking about how that can very well be them showing up on Peacock. And that makes a lot of sense to me now also because of how they removed Jon Moxley as the champion. So, and obviously GCW has been keeping things very close to the chest in regards to what the state is, what's their relationship with AEW moving forward, which is pretty interesting. And again, like if in fact GCW does get a streaming deal on Peacock, I mean, that's huge. And then, if you think about it, compared to all the way back in the day when WWE partnered up with ECW, so it's not totally out of the realm of possibilities. Even though GCW is pretty extreme, I think, with them also having someone like Matt Cardona, who was talked about as someone that might be going back to WWE, I think there's a lot of, good things there. Brett Lauderdale is tight with Stephenie McMahon and Triple H. So, I mean, I think that's another, reason as to why this is very possible. Former AEW star Joey Janela has been tweeting a lot about WWE also, even as far as last night live tweeting it. So, this guy, look at this. Great addition, #1 sports entertainment show on weekly television, WWE SmackDown. I'm grateful for actual sports entertainment on Friday nights. And the interesting thing about this also is the fact that like Rampage is on Friday night, so it's kind of like a shot at AEW. So it seemed to me that things aren't, so great between them and AEW for them to even post this. I'm usually home relaxing, and it seems that the fans are too, and gives them credit. I mean, it just seems insane that this could be possible. But I mean, 2022, if anything, has taught us that anything in the world is possible wrestling wise. I think we could all agree to that, whether it been Cody Rhodes showing up in WWE, Vince McMahon retiring / the controversy or scandal with paying off all these women allegedly. So there's just a ton of things that we never would have thought happened. I mean, CM Punk and the whole backstage fight and Young Bucks being suspended. Like if you were asked me last year, would the Young Bucks be suspended from AEW this year, I would say there ain't no chance in hell that that's going to happen. So I just think that, obviously it seems a little out there, but you just never know, especially with today's wrestling. Anything is truly possible. And again, now we're hearing the rumors about CM Punk, somehow ending up in WWE. Do I think that'll happen? No. I don't think WWE would ever sign him. But again, you never know. With the war in AEW and WWE just not happy with each other, I just think that, again, it's possible. And again, CM Punk always just wanted money. That's what he said. So if WWE pays up, I don't see why it couldn't happen. But again, I just think such a long shot. But I don't care either way. I would hate this. I would hate for this to be the end of CM Punk's wrestling career. And I would hate that, that they couldn't at least make this like a storyline or something. You know what I mean? Like there's a chance to make some money off this, a huge storyline down the line. I just think that it would suck if they just ended up firing CM Punk, letting the Young Bucks contracts expire. And I think the other thing that we learned is with the Good Brothers. The Good Brothers showed up on Monday Night Raw. They are now part of that roster. And who had that on their bingo board? Nobody. So again, anything is just possible this year. And I think as a wrestling fan, it's awesome. It's never been as exciting. And I think we've been saying that for the past few years, that it's never been a better time to be a wrestling fan. But I think now more than ever, that is the case because so much stuff is happening. So much exciting stuff is happening. And so much drama is happening. And I am here for all of it. I enjoy wrestling. As for me as a fan a few years ago, I definitely wasn't even watching it. I was mostly watching BTE bits. And then all of a sudden, with the announcement of AEW, I fell back in love with wrestling again. It was exciting and new, and I felt a part of this brand. And, I was just disenchanted with WWE for a while there. I still kept up with it, read the news and stuff like that online, but I just never watched the shows. Didn't have cable either, so that made things a lot harder. But I always kept up to date with things. My favorite wrestler was Shawn Michaels, and once he left, I really wasn't much of interest. Didn't see CM Punk a little bit, but then he left. And so I just really enjoyed, the way the Elite were doing things with Cody Rhodes and stuff. I enjoyed following that story because it just felt closer to me. And that's really why I ended up doing that. The Good Brothers wanted to go back. Of course, yeah. But again, 2 years ago, they did a tweet saying that they would mark it down. We will never, ever, ever go back to WWE. Not even, I think he said, unless I need a second pool or something. I think that's what Carl Anderson wrote. And so again, and think about it. 2 years ago, you never would have thought the Good Brothers were going back to WWE. So it's just, again, this whole year, the last couple of years have taught me that anything is possible. I mean, I just never thought we'd see a day where Vince McMahon was not even a part of his company, where he's gone. I thought he would die in that chair. Just thought he would die. Still don't watch WWE, but I do keep up with it. And that's pretty much where I'm at mostly. 'Cause I think about it all the time doing like live streams and stuff, like or after shows. But I gotta say, number one, Solomonster, he is such a good live stream. Like I'm such a fan. And like I just don't think I definitely couldn't do as good of a job as him. And I just think that if anybody wanted coverage of after shows, you just Solid Monster is just the way to go. I watch all his stuff. I watch it after the fact, not even like live streaming it. I just watch it all the time. He's so smart and really up to date with everything. So, I'll figure out a spot, but we'll see how it goes. I love GCW, Jersey Company. Kind of sad that they bought them like Khan bought ROH. You know what's funny is I went to my first GCW show last year in July because I wanted to see Matt Cardona win. And that was pretty cool. That was really, really cool to kind of be a part of that and the whole melee. And I definitely enjoyed myself. That is for sure. And things got crazy at the end where people were like throwing bottles and glass bottles into the ring. Wild. But that was just another thing. That was my first ever independent show. So getting to see that too was just super cool. Love WWE, even though the bad times. Yeah, I mean, listen, I will always be a wrestling fan. It's just nothing really interested me on WWE. There was just no really interesting storylines, and the long-term storylines are always going to be what's interesting. And WWE just like changed their mind every week, where they were going, and you can never really invest in anybody. And anybody that came up from NXT all of a sudden had to be a different person. And so it just didn't make sense, or it just made things harder to pay attention to, for that exact reason right there. So but the BTE came along. It was exciting. I think the first show was in DC, which is where I lived. So I got to go and be a part of that show, which was really cool. And they do a lot of shows by where I live in Maryland, which is awesome. I went to the show, I think 2 weeks ago. I went to Rampage and Dynamite, and I got floor seats for $30 each. I bought them the day of the event. I mean, you can't really beat that price. I ended up going to Raw. I went to Raw 2 weeks ago as well for the 15th anniversary, or not 15th, the 25th anniversary of DX. That was awesome. That was a really good time as well. Tickets were a little bit more expensive. I ended up paying like $1.50, I think, per seat. But they were just one level up, so it was really good to see. So yeah, back to the whole GCW thing. I think that it's a really exciting thing that could very well happen. I don't know why else. Joey Janela has been obsessed with WWE lately. Same thing with Brett Lauderdale. All they do is post about WWE, and so it's like, why would you do it if not? Like the other thing they would always mention is like Omos. There's like this big deal, I guess, going on with him and Omos. I don't get it, but I'm sure they'll announce it by the end of the day, and we'll have more to know. Matt Cardona's coming back on November 20th, so that'll be cool. Matt Cardona has done an amazing job on the Indies. And he actually got me to go to my first ever indie show last year because I'm such a fan and kind of excited by what he's doing there. This man looks coked up. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, I guess. WWE roster starting to get bigger from what I hear. They aren't done adding more talent. They could get too bloated. That is true. And for what's interesting as well is that like, we abused Tony Khan and stuff, or everybody gave him a hard time for having all these wrestlers and stuff. And like right now, thank God he has a bigger roster than he does, because he would have been even more screwed with all these injuries and suspensions and all this other stuff. So I just think that it's a great time. The thing that I guess bothers me though, mostly about AEW, is the fact that then I just feel like Ricky Starks should be pushed more. I think that since there are a lot less wrestlers there, they should be pushing Ricky more. But I still don't feel like he's getting a bigger push or more TV time. I know he does some stuff on Rampage. I haven't really paid much attention to Rampage lately. I think he's on like one of the commentators there, which is cool. So that's but I would just like to see them, build more stars. I see them, they're focused on this Daniel Garcia kid, and so that's cool. Resting, did Jim Duggan die? The deal, they like to troll a lot, but you never know. Exactly, you never know. Did Jim Duggan die? Is that like a real thing, or am I getting punked? Latest. Well, we got Hack Squat Jim Duggan. I don't see anything about Jim Duggan dying. I don't see that happening. Maybe, and you're doing lines together. Yes, that'd be dope. I would do some lines with Tony Khan if he asked. Why not, right? Starks needs to win an Eliminator tournament or Dynamite ring. I agree. They need to push this guy. This guy is a main event star. I don't know what they're doing. I like what they're doing with MJF. I wish they wouldn't talk about WWE as much as they do, but hey, I get it. It helps bring more eyes on the company. Sometimes people talk more about it when they mention WWE, so there can be more articles. AEW mentions WWE on their show tonight, so that's what they want. That's what they want. All right, definitely need to push Starks, Kingston, and Hobbs more. I saw that Kingston is wrestling for New Japan. He's going to be wrestling, what's his name? Jay White. So that's pretty cool. And again, Tony Khan definitely likes Eddie Kingston, so I think that he will continue to get pushed. That whole beef with Sammy Guevara was weird, but then again, Sammy Guevara was involved with the whole Andrade. I mean, there's just been like so much drama with wrestling lately. It's wild. Sorry to hear about your hair, bro. I mean, I would be very sad if my hair disappeared. I'll be honest with you. Be very, very honest. Kingston versus Pac is coming. That would be a great match. Definitely love to see it. Another cool thing, I guess, with WWE now is like I probably didn't watch any Raw up until Cody Rhodes debuted at WrestleMania. I hadn't watched any, WWE wrestling probably in a few years before that. And then slowly I started to dip my toes in, and still mostly Cody Rhodes stuff. But now I would say I'm really into the whole Bray Wyatt storyline. That's stuff that's kind of really picked up lately, so that's interesting. The weird thing is, though, I still follow AEW probably the most. Just because they have more stars that I'm more familiar with, I guess, or lately anyway. It seems that the WWE is, I think Triple H is doing a great job now, starting to bring up guys. I think someone like Solo Sikoa is a great example of someone that came from NXT and he just perfectly slided in with the bloodline. So I just need Tony Khan to start doing some more long-term storytelling, and I think he'll be much better off. I think that's the issue with AEW right now is besides like MJF, there really isn't any other long-term storylines. And I think that if you go back in time when AEW first started, that Hangman Page Elite storyline is what kind of like drove this company for a while. And, that ever since that storyline kind of closed itself up, for better or for worse, or not really even due to their own fault because of a lot of drama that has happened with CM Punk and the injury and then him going off the handle, which I totally understand why that would happen. So they just had to change so many times. But I just think that, they need to take a beat and start focusing on some long-term storylines with some good payoffs. And we'll see what happens, CM Punk is a part-time CM Punk. I kind of feel like they're not going to want to give up on CM Punk AEW. You read that his contract might get bought out, but I just have a feeling that they'll figure out a way to make this work. There's just too much money left on the table, and you'd be stupid to not make it work, especially like and you know, the weird thing also is like, if you think about a few years ago when, you know, CM Punk would like do interviews and stuff, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were like always guys that he mentioned first as wanting to feud with. And so it's just weird now. Like, imagine like part of this is a work. It's not, but it would be cool. It would be like a cool work in a way where they really worked everybody, but it's definitely not a work. When do you see the Elite returning, maybe Full Gear, and CM Punk returns if he apologizes? So I would say that the Elite will return. It's hard to say, man. Maybe Full Gear is right. I think again, if you know, they're saying that has to do a lot with like legal stuff that's going on. So I would imagine that means that like CM Punk is firing people. I mean, not firing people, is suing like the Elite or whatever it is, and so that they can't really show up till that gets squandered. And I would hope that you know, that illegal thing doesn't happen out of it, because again, he said on that media scrum that if anybody, you know, wants a piece of him, let's go find him. And they found him, and then a whole huge melee ensued. But it's wrestling. I think you got to move forward. This whole suing thing is just kind of nonsense. And so I think, yeah, Punk should just apologize. Let's just move forward. I would just love to see some matches with like the Young Bucks fighting like Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, you know, something like that. That's what I was hoping for originally. We'll see. And then, you know, again, Kenny Omega being gone too. I know he's very, divisive in the fan base, where some people hate him, some people like him. I think his stuff was at least pretty interesting. Whatever he was in, he always did something interesting. And I think that's something that Tony Khan needs to realize as well, is what Tony Khan usually does. And I get why he does it, but he'll always just rely on actual matches. Like when things get rough, he'll just be like, all right, let's just put up some really great wrestling matches, and that'll carry us through. But eventually you need to sit down and then draw up long-term storylines. That has to happen, you know, and that's what the Elite were doing back in the day when they were with ROH. You know, that's how people connected with the Elite, because they were doing long-term storytellings through their YouTube, being the Elite. That's another thing that's gone, being the Elite. That's kind of sucks. Although I probably wasn't as excited about it anymore, because all it really was a bunch of like Dark Order clips, some Ryan Nemeth clips. You know, it was barely ever really anything interesting to me. So same thing with I used to watch Sammy Guevara stuff very regularly. Same stuff. I mean, just the wrestling vlogs have really been kind of weak lately. I'll be honest. There really hasn't been that many interesting blogs. I know Ethan Page had a blog for a while. Then now he just does the toy shopping. The Major Brother Pod, they actually, their stuff's still pretty good actually, because they do a lot of different indie events. So it's kind of cool to see where they go. So I do enjoy that. Not gonna lie. Oh, cool. Is that hey, also, we have a Discord if anybody's interested, and you can always join our Discord. We have hundreds of wrestling fans in there talking all the time, just about different things, AEW, WWE. They're just it's just a great way to build a cool community, be able to talk to people. It's like a healthy community too. We really work hard to make sure that you know, there's no drama on there. I do love the Nyla Jade. That has been pretty good, actually. That has been good. I was actually at Celeb Fest when they like had a little drama where Nyla Rose showed up with the TBS championship, and like the baddies were there, and there was this little weird thing that happened. Is Hangman good? I think he's good. I think he's really good. I wasn't a big fan of his title run. I don't think it was really anything that remarkable. Again, not really any storylines, just like a different big guy every month or whatever. But that's kind of where I'm at with that. I think probably the best run for a champion, I mean, you got to probably say Kenny Omega was probably the best champion so far. John Moxley, he was good. It also sucks for him, though, because he was the champion during the pandemic, so that was never going to be as good as it possibly could be, but he did his best. Chris Jericho, the first champion, so he did a pretty good job there. I just think that AEW in the beginning, like their first year, like the entire 2019, was really their best stuff. And I know that Tony Khan took booking after that whole Dark Order fake punching angle happened. And he's been doing it since then. And I think that's also why I don't really have many storylines. It's he just cares more about matches. He's like, his analytical brain just works that way. I just think I think it kind of sucked. The booking, I honestly feel like took a dip more when he took the reins away from Cody and the Young Bucks. And I think that was because Cody and the Young Bucks knew what wrestling fans liked and wanted. And they did a really good job of providing that. I don't think they should get blamed just because of that weird Dark Order segment with the fake punching. But, and then I think like the first year also, I mean, of AEW, you barely saw Tony Khan. Tony Khan didn't really do any interviews. Mostly the people who did interviews for AEW was Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks. I mean, those are probably like the two biggest people that were doing most of the interviews, and Brandy Rose as well. And then slowly but surely, and now all the time, it's just become like Tony Khan who does all of the interviews, period. And I get that as like a person who owns AEW because, as when you're a boss, you kind of feel like no one could do as good of a job as you can. So that's why he'd rather him do it so that no one says anything stupid or he feels more in control. I think that's become an issue for him where he's just scared to give up control to people, because of things that have happened. If you look at him that first year of that gleam in his eye and how excited he was, and, he didn't want to, like, AEW, everybody was like, oh, we're all best friends and everybody loves each other. This is the best job I ever had. But really, I'm being honest. It really is the best place I ever worked. It's the greatest group of people. And, obviously the case now, that is not the case anymore. There's a lot of drama. The other thing that we've heard lately is that, Thunder Rosa has a lot of heat backstage. Mostly with Britt Baker being the one that really, really does not like her at all. And which apparently kind of molded together with her, which played a role apparently in her trying to vacate the title. Apparently, she also there were rumors that she tried to get the company to release her. Again, like if you look at that title, it was just so weird because Thunder Rosa became the champion and then you just like never saw her again. It was like it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. They just put no focus on her. And I think that has to do a lot with, again, she doesn't have good promo skills, I guess is what they found out, number one. And number two, Britt Baker hates her. Britt Baker hates her. So that doesn't really go well for her. And, I think the other thing is like Britt Baker wanted to win that Owen Cup. So she was just like, you know what? Let Thunder Rosa have the belt. And me and Adam Cole, we go win the Owens for the men's and the women's respectively. That's what I think is what happened there. Although they really never did anything. Like they never, they won the Owen and then they wore the belt, maybe the Owen belts for like a few more weeks. And then that was it. But then also, I guess if you think about like Adam Cole, man, and him being injured really is another huge, a huge stab to AEW's momentum. Their one-man guy right now is like Bryan Danielson. Their free agent that's still working. That's really the case. And eventually you got to figure that since it's going to be MJF against Jon Moxley, and you're going to figure that at Full Gear, MJF will probably win. and then MJF can slide right into a feud with Bryan Danielson. I think that would be the logical next step. Jon Moxley can go back on that vacation that he wanted to go on, and then I think it makes sense all around. And again, but the other thing is that Kenny Omega was in charge of the women's division as well. So I don't know if, how much of it is his fault as well with the lack of, storylines or just development in the women's division. But I guess we'll see what happens. TK's booking woman has been horrible. Yeah, it's not like Storm is cutting live promos, but up until straight weeks, yeah, that's the thing. She was there. They put her on every week. They put her on. They push her. They never did that with Thunder Rosa. She might have did like one promo, and I don't even think a single match in like 2 months of becoming a champion. It was the weirdest thing ever. I'd even forgotten that she was the champion. So I guess we'll see though. We'll see what happens. MJF is holding the title till 2024. That is very possible. I could see that happening. I just, what's weird is like, I'm just so surprised that Tony Khan would allow him to do this unless he knew that he was going to lock up MJF. I just can't see Tony Khan allowing this guy to do all this and get away with all this just to go to WWE. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, as an owner of a company, this guy's going to be gone in a year. Why would you let him do all this? There has to be more to that story. And I think a lot of it is work, especially like him disappearing and stuff like that, especially because when asked about it by Ariel Helwani, the way he like responded, or his non-response, kind of just felt like he didn't want to talk about it because like maybe that raise isn't really true. Did he really get that raise? I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that was more storyline than anything else. Just my guess. I don't think that he held up the company, and that's why. I think, again, they kept him off TV because the summer months are the slowest months and the months that don't really matter. And the fact is that AEW is going to be, bargaining for a new TV contract. And the fall of right now is the time that everyone is going to, all the networks are going to be looking at numbers wise to see what they're going to get. And so, in my opinion, that's why MJF was gone, was because when they brought him back, he could be this huge ratings boost. Of course, they were hoping that CM Punk was going to help that as well, and the Elite and whoever else. But now it's more falling on MJF. So much so where MJF has just been cutting good guy promos. I mean, did you watch Dynamite this week? Both promos he cut were good guy promos, where he's like, I gotta earn it. I'm gonna earn this championship. Like, who is this MJF really gonna become like a super good guy? It's gonna be weird. Is there like a spammer in here? I don't see one. Oh, the Tinder Hot. I can remove this, I think. Hide user from this channel. I think that should work. So yeah, so it seems, and MJF is going on all these interviews and just pushing AEW and saying great things about it, which blows my mind. And again, it might be because he says it's because Tony Khan finally gave him all that money that he wanted. But it just seems like it doesn't make sense. That's really true. I just don't think. I think that, again, that's all storyline, and that he really didn't get, all that money because of him threatening to leave or whatever. I just don't see that as being true. But who knows? Dynamite was good this week. I agree, Ricky. Also, always appreciate you in my comment section. Strickland Burner, too, as well. Always appreciate seeing you in those comments. Wrestlers should not book this show. That's where WCW went wrong. Yes, wrestlers know the business, but that don't mean they can book wrestling shows. I think the problem with WCW booking, though, and like I'm sure if you've watched a lot of, shoot interviews with Kevin Nash and stuff, and number one, the problem with wrestlers booking is because they always want to put the belts on themselves. So that's the big problem. And the other problem with WCW, though, is that the way they would book shows was weird because they would tape like two Thunders that would air on Thursday, and then they would have like a live Nitro in between those Thunders. And so if there were like injuries and stuff, or like the title change, they couldn't really foresee it. And so that made booking impossible because they had to like assume like if anyone ever got injured or anything, that Thunder was like taped a week before. And so it just made booking ridiculous. And I think that's the other problem now where it's like Rampage definitely feels a lot like WCW Thunder did, where there just really isn't that much going on. No real notable stories, mostly matches. I remember when Rampage came, they announced it, like everybody was so excited for more wrestling TV. It was such an exciting time. And then now it's really gotten to the point where I never really watch it. I don't look forward to Rampage. I just think it's maybe too much. And Tony Khan has been talking about how, especially the last couple of days, it's really heating up, where he said that ROH TV deal is really close to happening. And so that's just more hours. And it makes sense. That's why they made Chris Jericho the champion, because he's a much more bigger star that they can sell to these networks. So I totally get why they made that move. And that's probably what helped them speed up the process with ROH finally getting a TV deal. But, Tony Khan can't be in charge of booking all these companies. It's insane. It's too much. It's too much. He needs to let somebody else worry about ROH. He needs to invite more people to this table at AEW. I mean, I just don't think that QT Marshall can be that great of a wrestling mind and booker. I mean, because in the interviews that I've heard, it's always been like QT Marshall is one of the biggest influencers as far as booking AEW. Ever since the beginning, he was the guy that would format all the shows. And now he's like an executive vice president or whatever vice president he is. And I just think that they need someone else. They need a fresh set of eyes, and someone that, someone with, like, I love what WWE did recently, where they hired they hired that guy, Rob Fenn, as their long-term creative employee. So like they have an employee specifically for long-term creative. I think that's the super smart way to go. I think that's something that AEW should look into. I hope they don't make MJF a face. I think it's going to happen. We'll see. MJF lost his heel heat. I mean, it even goes back if you look at All Out. I mean, when MJF came back at All Out in Chicago, the fans went nuts, even with CM Punk in the ring. When does that ever happen? That never happens. No one gets out. No one is a bigger star to Chicago than CM Punk, and they went crazy for MJF. It's just insane to think about. And I get that he was returning, so you always get that big return pop or whatever, but still, man, you don't see fans generally act like that, especially with someone like CM Punk. He does one promo and he's back. Come on, boys, calm down. I don't know what you're talking about, MJF. Why is Vince rumored to appear at? Is that a rumor, Vince? I mean, I'm sure he could appear at WrestleMania. Why not, right? He still is the largest shareholder of WWE. Just because he doesn't work there, he's still a majority shareholder. In case you didn't know that. But I do know that he's definitely not involved. So much so he doesn't even have his work cell anymore. Because I was watching this interview with Kurt Angle where he's like, I tried to call Vince's cell, but apparently it was his work cell and it was disconnected. So he just, so he's not involved. And I mean, you can see Triple H really doing some things. And what's cool too is you can kind of get a feel for in your head how Triple H was feeling whenever these wrestlers would debut on SmackDown and Raw, the guys that he built in next, and how he definitely wasn't happy. Like I can imagine him like just like at his house with Stephenie, just being like, "What is your dad doing to all my guys? He's killing them." I could see it. But I remember back in the day, man, everybody hated Triple H as a wrestler, especially in like 2002 and 2003, because they were always like, "Oh, he only cares about himself. He's booking himself as the champion." And now it's so funny to see how like everybody thinks he's this amazing booker now. I was at the show when the Good Brothers were re-debuted or whatever, and that was super cool to be a part of. I don't think they're really like major players. They're really going to make much of a difference now. But it was definitely a cool moment to be a part of. And it's just cool to see that like the WWE, this is a new brand. This means this is a new chapter. They'll do things in different ways now. And that was the biggest example of that, was bringing back the Good Brothers. Got a good pop when he was on Long Island. Before All Out. Oh, yeah, before All Out, that was the biggest time. Yeah. It's his hometown. TK doesn't know what sleep is. Fulham. Yeah. I don't know how he can book all this stuff. It's insane. I give him credit. For doing all that. I wouldn't be able to handle it. I'd want to die. I'd literally want to die. Tony Khan, the way he keeps running his mouth, random stuff in interviews, it's annoying. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I really felt for Ariel Helwani when he did that interview with Tony Khan. Why couldn't Tony Khan say how he felt about the whole Cody Rhodes? Okay, this is something that I really want to get in on. All right. So the whole Cody Rhodes thing, right? Like Cody Rhodes, for argument's sake, he's my favorite wrestler, bar none. Right now, Cody Rhodes, my favorite wrestler. I did this video on why AEW broke my heart, and where I kind of went over this a little bit more. But in that Ariel interview, he asked him like, how did it make him feel losing Cody Rhodes? Did you try hard enough to keep him or whatever? So that was one thing. But if any of you remember, Cody Rhodes did an interview with Ariel Helwani the day after his re-debut at WrestleMania. And in that interview, he said that Tony Khan and him couldn't come to an agreement on one thing, right? Like he was like, Tony Khan wouldn't give him this one thing, and that's why he left. So there was something that Tony Khan wouldn't agree to that is out there. And I don't know what, and Cody Rhodes was like, listen, I don't know if he'll ever share it. If he ever does, that's fine. But that's the case. There was one thing, he just wouldn't give it to me. And so I want to know what that thing is. What could it have been, really? What could that been? What could that, whatever. Let Punk go, ruin WWE. I don't see him going back to WWE though. I think if they buy out his contract, it's over. He's done. Especially with all those injuries on top of everything else, he's just a huge injury risk. He had that great year for a while where he didn't get injured, but it's just one injury after the next. Ariel is a joke though. I mean, in the WWE world, apparently not, because they give him. Oh, that was another thing though. What's interesting, right? So if you look at the Tony Khan interview with Ariel Helwani, that was on Ariel Helwani's channel, like his personal YouTube channel, as opposed to all those other WWE interviews he does are on BT Sport, which is the largest partner for like European television with the WWE. So that's more so why Ariel's getting those interviews, because they're for the BT Sports channel. So I really also think that Tony Khan was doing him a solid by showing up on his channel, because he didn't really need to do that, because it wasn't, WWE probably has some kind of quota with the BT sport because they're partners and they pay WWE for, having their television on their channel. And that's kind of how we'll see it. Oh, well, thank you very much, Finbar. Appreciate it. Ariel, what was I saying? Skulls will be making his ED. I don't know. Skulls, that's exciting. Never heard of him. Skulls. Oh, your Skulls, the Soul Hunter. Well, good luck, bro. Hope it works out. Z Sports Cards. What's up, my brother? Long time no see. Hope everything's going great. He was a friend of mine from my previous YouTube channel I used to have called Mets Fans Only. I used to host that for a couple of years. You can tell TK and Cody had a falling out. Cody wanted to save face, and TK wanted him heel. He wanted to stay face. That would have allowed him to challenge for the AEW title because his new contract would have allowed it. Huh. Maybe. There's the one thing. I don't know what that one thing is, but I really want to know. Cody is an egomaniac. He hated being booed. I mean, I don't think he hated being booed. I think that he wanted to be a good guy. I think he didn't understand why he was being booed. But eventually also, that's how us wrestling fans are, though. He was dipping his toes in too many things outside of the wrestling world, and wrestling fans get mad when, it seems like people kind of feel like you're cheating on them by going to some other median. I remember I went to a bunch of shows towards the end where Cody was wrestling right before he left for WWE, and everybody was booing him. I was the only one that was cheering him. I was literally the only one. Everybody was booing the crap out of him. They did not like him. So honestly, we got what we deserve on that one and him leaving because we asked for it. Heel Cody would have been so good, but WWE, Cody and WWE not mad. Yeah. The cool thing is, at the end of the day, is I'm not relegated to only one wrestling company. I can watch as much wrestling as I want to watch. It doesn't matter. I can watch both shows, no shows, clips, articles, whenever I want. I'm not a homer in any way. I'm a fan of the wrestling business succeeding. That's why I created this channel. I've been a wrestling fan since I was a little kid, and I just hope that I can somehow make this a full-time thing, and I built some cool relationships over the last couple of months with some wrestling companies, with some wrestlers. I had a meeting today with Bobby Fish and helping him out with his podcast. I've been working with Chris Van Vliet a lot lately. I've worked with Denise Salcedo, Sam Roberts. I was at StarCast as a media person. If you see here, look at that. Media. So definitely trying to get in this. Super excited. Hoping, to do some things. I did an interview with Stu Grayson, which I got to post up. He talked a lot about what he was doing. Bret Hart refused to let me interview him at the show, which really sucked. I asked him for an interview. He said no. Well, he asked me what I was going to ask him. And he's like, what are your questions? And I was like, what do you think about CM Punk leaving? And he wouldn't answer that question. So that kind of sucked. I mean, I guess I should have asked him like softball questions, and then I could have, if I would have asked Bret Hart softball questions, then I would have a video with him. I should have did that. I should have just been like, what's your favorite color, Bret? And then I could have a cool video with him. Same thing with Candice LeRae. Candice LeRae, she told me that she said yes, but she needs to finish eating. And then she like hid from me the entire time. So I didn't get an interview with her either. That hurt. I wasn't going to beg her for an interview though. But Stu Grayson was super nice and willing and to give me as much time. And so I'm a big Stu Grayson fan now because of that. I get it though. Wrestlers, they got to be careful what they say on interviews and things like that. But I had access. I got an approved for access for the show. And so I was really hoping to get some interviews to kind of start to build some more relationships in the company, but whatever. Hopefully in the future, I do go to a lot of MCW shows, and we'll see what happens with that. AEW is coming to Los Angeles in January. That's dope. I live in Maryland, though. I'm definitely trying. My two big goals, short-term goals, is to be at the Royal Rumble in January in Texas, to figure out a way to get there, and WrestleMania. Like those are like my next 6 months. I want to make that happen. Where that's my dream. I've never been to a WrestleMania. I've never been to a Royal Rumble, and I want to hopefully try to make enough money doing this to get myself there. It was really tough for a while too. I don't know if you guys know this. AEW came after my channel and had me demonetized 3 months ago for putting up like their clips from their media scrums. And in my mind, I always thought that like, well, these are media scrums and media people, post this stuff. So if I'm a media, I know I wasn't invited, but it's still like public information. It's not necessarily stealing, but they came after me pretty hard. I had to change my channel. That's why I have to like include myself in the videos now and stuff. And I get it. So I full bore into this. I left my job a month ago, so I'm going to try to start really going all in on this YouTube. I really hope that you'll be on this ride with me. Let me know what kind of content you'd like to see. And, I do have a lot of relationships. I definitely can get a Bobby Fish interview. I know that for sure. But I've been doing a lot of work with a lot of different people ever since I started this channel. I've created a lot of great relationships. I'm really tight now with Conrad Thompson's guy that he's called Steve Kaufman. He's always doing he's in charge of like putting out content for all of the wrestler interviews under Conrad, like Mick Foley and Kevin Nash and all those people. And he's been a great resource for me to kind of get ideas from. So yeah, so if you follow, and you can see that on like Twitter, you should follow up with, definitely also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I put up a lot of personal stuff there, trying to, again, build up those profiles. Oh yeah, I'm a big Mets fan. Oh, sorry. It's a good move for Theory. Did he win the belt? Mike with the mic. Yo, that was the best day ever with Renee telling me to take off my shirt. That was the best moment of my life. Denise is awesome. I would love for Punk to return. I agree, but I don't think that'll happen. Brett would have said, blame it on. Listen, I would have loved for him to say that. I had 3 really good questions lined up. So because like nobody else hasn't like given his opinion on the whole Punk situation yet. And like tons of other wrestlers have. RVD, Mankind, Kevin Nash, a lot of people have given their opinions, but Bret Hart. So I figured if I would have asked him that question, that would have definitely been a good one. The other question was, as someone like I have Peacock, and as a person who has WWE Peacock, for some reason, all of Bret Hart's DVDs, like his like documentary and the Hart Dungeons, all of them have been removed from the Peacock library. And why is that? Like, why can't I actually had to literally go. No. That sucked. I had to literally go and buy this on eBay because you can't watch it on the Peacock. I don't know why that's the case, but I hope they fix that. I could like listen to Bret Hart just talk forever. Like the way he tells stories and stuff is just very calming. It's kind of like watching Bob Ross paint. I used to love to listen to like wrestling interviews when I go to sleep anyway. Bret Hart was, I went to high school with Candace. Well, I get it. She didn't want to do an interview with me. I get it. I'm a nobody, but I thought, I had a good question for her too, but whatever. You think Cody Rhodes will? Yeah, I definitely think he's going to return at the Royal Rumble 2023, and I want to be there. I'm going to try everything I can to get to be there. Do you keep up with Cafe Day? I watch sometimes, definitely not. The podcasts that I pay the most attention to, number one is Click This. I just love Kevin Nash's thoughts, and oh man, everybody got to pray for keep positive. Kevin Nash losing his son, man. I don't know what that means for the state of the podcast, and I get that's totally not what's important right now, but I mean, I get if he's gonna have to take a break or whatever, and also because his son was working on it with him, it could end up being like a much harder thing to do. So I hope this isn't the end for his podcast. And not that I heard it was, or any rumblings that it could be or whatever, but it's going to be hard for him. I can imagine it being hard for him right now. And I'm going to miss that podcast if it kind of goes away for any length of time. Day one was canceled. I heard that. Apparently it just didn't do really great numbers, or the numbers they were hoping it were to do. Plus, gives people days off on New Year's where most people should be off, and wrestlers deserve to be off. So I get it. Nope, Theory still has it. I think he'll have a match with Owens and Gargano. Okay, so he didn't lose. I didn't watch Halloween Havoc tonight. I listened to the Shawn Michaels press conference yesterday, but I did not watch it at all. It was very interesting stuff. Wait, screen share, window, share. Yeah, so also if you want, where's my profile? Feel free to subscribe to me or my Twitter thingamajig here. This is me. I did all the Q&As for the podcast at Rapstarcast. So this was when Brian Danielson and Renee did their podcast for her show. I at the end was doing all the press for it. Then I did that video why Jon Moxley hates me. I also gave Bobby Fish this idea for I told him that he should send out a poll and find out which match people want to see him talk about the most. So it's pretty cool to see that my ideas are out there working. MCW, they've been a big help to me. I was at this show where Buff Bagwell debuted his weird new shtick. That was cool to be a part of. Really super weird, but it was cool. Yep, I was at the DX thing, and then Cody Rhodes, he retweeted my tweet where I got that tattoo, which was pretty dope. I never wore it. I just have it hanging up in my Cody Rhodes section. Can I show it? Look at that. I just got a ton of Cody Rhodes stuff. And if you see this, you'll probably see this blank space up here. And that's because I bought this huge WrestleMania plaque with Cody from WWE Shop, and it just still hasn't come. So hopefully that comes one day. Do you have a prediction for the Wyatt 6 members will be first, since first member might be? Yeah, I'm hearing that Bo Dallas might be involved. I have a feeling, though, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be characters, like actual wrestlers. I think personally that it's going to be more him being more like multiple personalities. You know what I mean? I think it's more going to be more on that than actual faction of wrestlers. Who won this last two? NXT won, but by a very, very small, 10,000 people difference. It was such a small. They both had 600,000 people. So very, very small. But NXT won, but by a microscopic amount. AEW. I thought I heard. Are you sure? I mean, I heard from WrestleNomics, Brandon Thurston. I saw on his channel that he said that NXT won. So, I mean, NXT might have won the demographic. They might have had a higher 18 to 40 demographic, but I think overall it went to NXT. Just doing a review of Grimm from GTS. I've watched some of his stuff. I saw he did a match with Kurt Hawkins or Matt Cardona a few years ago. Look, that guy's wild. I never could understand his videos, because like one day like one of his videos popped up into my feed, Grim, and it had him like driving to the WWE because he became a writer. But apparently, I don't think it was true. It like confused the crap out of me, because he's like, oh, me and my wife were driving to WWE. I've been hired as a writer. And then I really didn't follow anything after that, but I never heard that he actually became a writer. Maybe that was like a joke that I wasn't in on. I don't know. Maybe you guys know better than me. I didn't understand it though. Would like the undisputed champion back. I don't know what that means. You'd like, oh, like Roman Reigns wasn't on SmackDown tonight? That's the only thing I can think of. I heard Cross is supposed to be a member. That would be interesting. I'm really happy to see Cross and Scarlett back in WWE. I think they are stars, and I really can't wait to see what they do. It's kind of been like a slow building, it seems like, right now for them, but that's fine by me. They're definitely a unique pair, and they bring a different element to SmackDown with like the black and white. And again, I don't watch all of the shows, so I don't know specifically. The things I've seen, it's always been like black and white kind of stuff, the TV. AEW won. So they won the Tuesday? Okay, so I'm sorry. I'm wrong. Brandon Thurston was the one that said it, so I thought it was true. MJF came from GTS. Oh, the Grim. GTS is like the Grim TV show or whatever. I saw like he was, because like I know they did a lot of stuff with Brian Myers, Creative Pro. So I'm sure I think that's why MJF was like a part of it, because he was working with Kurt Hawkins. Brian Zane. Also, Brian Zane, I've become pretty tight with him. Well, not super tight, but he was at StarCast, and I helped him get into the backstage of Ric Flair's last match. Well, I really help him. We had these media passes, and he didn't realize that he was able to use that as a way to get backstage for Ric Flair's last match. And I was like, yeah, you could just use it and go backstage. And he was like, what? That's dope. So we got to hang out. Yeah, so me and him got to hang out backstage at Ric Flair's last match. Bro, check out this story, all right? So I was at StarCast. I was at Ric Flair's last match, right? This is a great story. I can't believe I never told this one. So I'm just trying to get into wrestling any way possible. I'll do whatever it takes. So the guy who owns MCW, his name's Dan McDevitt. He's trained like a lot of these wrestling stars. Like he's trained the Hardy Boys and Lita or whatever. And like Lita like thanks him first on her in Hall of Fame speech, all this stuff. So I've been helping him with his YouTube channel, and in return, he's trying to help me get into wrestling. Anyway, so I get to go to StarCast. I'm backstage. He hooks me up with like one of the guys that's in charge of like the event. And he's like, listen, Mike will help you with anything you might need or whatever. So the guy's like, okay, cool. So they come up to me and they're like, listen, so right before Ric Flair's match, we need you to bring his whole family to the front row to their seats and sit them down so that they're there for his match. So I'm like, okay, no problem. And I was also like trying to find other seats, like the Nasty Boys were there, and I had to like get them to their seats. Some other wrestlers were there too. I was finding them seats, like because the stadium was kind of sold out, so they didn't really know where the empty seats were. So it was like my job to find wrestlers' families' seats that were empty there. Anyway, so now it's time for me. And so like now I have Ric Flair's daughter. I have Charlotte Flair with me. I have his wife, Wendy, and like two other people. And I have to now bring them to their seats, right? Okay. So now I'm walking there, and the Nasty Boy is sitting in their seat, right? And I'm like, what the hell? Oh no, right? So I'm like, hey man, this isn't your seat. You're like, he had an assigned seat, but it was like up a row, up, like it wasn't on the ground floor, it was up. So I'm like, listen, your seat's up there, bro. You can't be sitting here. And he's like, no, I'm sitting here. I'm like, bro, are you out of your mind? So I'm literally pulling this guy up now because he's not listening to me because I got to get these people to sit down there. So like he's like tugging and pulling, and then like the workers from the stadium come and they're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to get this guy up. He cannot sit here. I got Ric Flair's family here. They want to sit there. And they're like, what are you doing? Get out of the way. They're like fighting me. I'm like, bro, no, this guy has to go here, this here, whatever, right? Because they were also bringing in like this big thing of like confetti or whatever. And so like that's why they were in the middle of it. And then eventually, so anyway, I grab the nasty boy finally. I have to pull him up. I sit his family down, and like the nasty boy guy can like barely walk because I guess he had like surgery or whatever. And like I'm like, this is your seat, bro. You gotta sit here. And he did not want to sit there because it was up. It wasn't on the ground floor. But I was like, whatever. And then as I make him sit down and I start walking, and the people, the staff at the stadium, they're like, sorry for bothering you. Sorry for doing this. I'm like, well, I'm going to stand right here and watch this match. They're like, okay, no problem. So I got to like stand like front row for the whole match. It was the coolest thing ever. Coolest thing ever. I mean, I had a better spot than the wrestlers. There were like so many wrestlers there that were like, they all like had like seats by the curtain or whatever, but I was just like front row. It was the coolest thing ever. Why do I feel that Ric Flair doesn't want to retire? Yeah, he doesn't. Now, especially because you heard that it was supposed to be FTR and Ricky Steamboat against, no, it was supposed to be FTR and Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat and somebody else or whatever for their match. And then Ricky Steamboat said, he already had such a great run in WWE for his final one. He doesn't want to ruin it. And then now Ricky, he's coming out of retirement and he's doing that match with Big Time Wrestling. So it probably had to do more with he didn't want to lose again, I guess. But he liked the idea. Now Big Time Wrestling are doing the exact same thing. Ricky Steamboat's coming out of retirement, and that's pretty cool for him, I guess. I guess there's an audience. Wrestling school's expensive, $2,000. Yeah, that sounds about right. Listen, you got to just stay with it. That's the thing. It's like the one thing I've learned about life. It's like you just got to keep showing up because people give up. Normal people eventually give up. But if you keep showing up, eventually you're going to out show up everybody else and you'll get exactly what you want. I promise. Ric Flair wants another match. No, he doesn't. I mean, because again, I can't imagine what it must feel like to be a wrestler and get to walk out and just like feel everybody like chanting your name and all that stuff. That's just, it sounds so cool. I couldn't imagine. All right. Well, that'll be all for this live stream. Try to get out of the way, the first one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to do more. Let me know if you have any ideas for ones in the future. Join me in my Discord. We're always hanging out in there. And stay tuned because I'm investing my whole life in this right now. I want to be a part of wrestling, and I'm going to put everything I can into it. So thank you everybody for hanging out. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you very soon. Oh, there you go. AW 752. All right. So I was wrong. Sorry. Okay. Cool beans.